Servant, episode 4, Bear. I'm Joe. Please subscribe to this channel. Plenty of other great videos coming up. Hope to have you along for the ride. I don't even know how to describe this show. Episode 4, Bear, was almost borderline comedy. First thing I like about this show is 30 minutes. It's easy to follow. It kind of all takes place in one thing. There's not a lot of characters, so you're really getting to know the select characters that are in this show. The scenario is very interesting, and you got some questions answered and some new questions asked. So in this episode, we start off with a flashback scene, and this is why this show is funny. With her walking up with a pregnancy test and throw it in front of his face, he goes, "That smells like piss." She's pregnant, and they call it Henry, and he writes Henry on the pregnancy test. Okay, that's odd. And then it goes to the current time, and they wake up, and he discovers that Leanne has taken the baby into her bedroom in the middle of the night. We have a first funny moment where he's making lobster ice cream to challenge people's prejudices, and Dorothy says, "I believe it's prejudice," and when she says, "I don't think it is," he's right. There's no such word as prejudice. If you look that up, that's like an Urban Dictionary word. There's a pretty cool scene where as she's making her soup, as she always does, Leanne, after Dorothy's left for work, he runs upstairs, goes into a crawl space, and installs a nanny cam in the room to watch what Leanne's doing. She's just, as he says, praying, eating soup, sleeping, and then at night when she thinks they're asleep, brings the baby into the room to spend time with baby Jericho while they're asleep. Julian comes over with wine as always, because these two guys are just lushes who just drink wine all the time. So despite the fact that they think something insane and criminal is happening, despite the fact that they have another baby living in the house that the wife thinks is really her child and he knows isn't, shows up in the middle of the day with wine, try this out, this is great. They're just ridiculous the way they're still going along with their life, which makes it so funny and the situation so much more preposterous. Tells them how that all she's doing is praying and taking the baby in there at night, and that's overstepping. Sean has come to the conclusion that the reason there's no missing baby or somebody out there looking for a missing baby is because Leanne is the mother of that baby, as a young single mother from a religious upbringing who had to go find some place to raise her baby. When she walked into the house in the very first episode, the baby was in the suitcase, and Sean seems willing to go along with it. Julian says, "You just pitched me the fairy tale." And then one of that next funny moments happens when he's trying to, the lobster ice cream that he made. And he's like, "What is it, strawberry?" He's like, "No, lobster." He freaking throws this, says, "Get the F out of here." I just laughed when that happened. The other part of the episode was Dorothy invited Leanne to bring the baby with her to work. That way her coworkers, Dorothy's coworkers, could meet baby Jericho. And Sean doesn't want that. And there's a great scene where Sean is sitting on the toilet drinking wine, looking like a little bitch. "You're gonna bring the baby to see everybody? Don't you remember how we used to talk about how we hated when people did that? You had to say something nice even though the baby was ugly. Remember that one baby we thought had Downs?" Which was an awful joke, but I laughed. I'm sorry. And I'm surprised there isn't people on the internet already, trying to fry this episode for making a joke about retarded children. So Sean manages to convince her not to take the baby to work the next day. Great scene in the morning where Leanne is already in her little outfit, her cute little beret. She's got the baby ready. She's all happy and smiling to go watch Dorothy work. And that was interesting in itself. Why was she so happy and smiley for that? Midday, she goes anyway and watches Dorothy work, and you see her in the background when Dorothy's doing a stand-up outside of a courthouse. Sean sees it. Dorothy comes home. Sean's like, "Where the hell were you? Where is Leanne?" Leanne comes in. "Do you have something to tell us, Leanne?" "I went to see you. I'm sorry. I was in the bus and I went to see you." And why did she go along? Why was she so determined to go and watch Dorothy work? And then, of course, you kind of knew where it was going when they're watching the clip back, and Dorothy says, "Was this your first time on television, Leanne?" She goes, "Yes, it was. It was my first time." They're like, okay, she was on TV before. Then there's the conversation between Sean and Leanne where Leanne actually kind of gives him an idea on his lobster ice cream. So the lobster ice cream theme kind of gets wrapped back together with Leanne actually saying, "Oh, you should put chocolate on it." And he comes up with an idea of putting it in a chocolate bomb and something about lemon twist. Or Sean kind of puts his foot down and says, you know, don't call the baby Jericho to me. I know it's not that. And then goes through the story, another pregnancy test, and saying Jericho writing his name on it and throwing it in a drawer with like 6 or 7 other pregnancy tests and telling the story about how Leanne had some active immune system which kills foreign antibodies, and Leanne was telling herself that she killed all her past pregnancy attempts. That's why they're not having sex, because he couldn't put her through it anymore. It brings up the question now, was there ever a baby Jericho? So I think there was, because you've seen her looking at her stomach and she's got the stretch marks and everything, like as if she was pregnant. Maybe she was pregnant a number of times and she did get the stretch marks, and that's why she never actually went through the term. I don't know. Turning into a ruse Sean and Leanne both know about, and Julian's in on, and the only person not wise to it somehow is Dorothy, because she's going through some kind of mental break that actually thinks this is her child. And then the big final little twist at the end was that Leanne was on TV before. They have the wall of all her old news stories that Dorothy has. She pulls out a DVD once they're asleep, or thinks they're asleep, and watches coverage of a little debutante ball, little Honey Boo Boo pageant type thing back from 2011, where at the end it goes to a little girl who looks just like Leanne, who's twiddling her thumbs just like Leanne, who happens to be named Leanne from Wisconsin. So there's where that is. So the last thing we're left with is that somehow 7-8 years ago, Leanne was in a pageant that was hosted, but wasn't a pageant in Philadelphia, Dorothy doing the coverage on, and somehow this has led to her being a fan of Dorothy, because you'd seen her before watching the newscast and she got all excited to go watch her do the newscast. So that's starting to come together as how she pinpointed these people. Now, how did she know that they had issues? How did she know that their baby was dead? Is it really Leanne's baby? That's the theory going on, but we don't know. Is Leanne alive? Is there anything supernatural happening, or did she somehow figure all this out and come to them? How did she figure this out and come to them? How did anybody know what was happening with Sean and Dorothy and their pregnancy situation? Is there something supernatural involved? Good episode. I look forward to seeing where we go in episode 5 and beyond that. I like the show a lot. I like the time. I like the timing of the show. I like it's fast, it's quick. You get through it nice and easy. It's well acted. Good show on Apple TV Plus. Apple TV Plus, the 2 shows I've watched so far have drawn me in. This one drew me in faster than C, but obviously it's a little bit of more toned down sort of character study show. But I like them both. I like this show. So far, all 4 episodes have been pretty good. I look forward to seeing where it goes, because something weird's happening and we don't know what it is yet. We're just getting little tiny little hints here and there. A slow build up with a lot of learning about these unusual people going along in this very unusual situation. I enjoyed the show, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to our channel. Until next time, I'm Joe.